Hi, I'm Dr. Eleanor. Today I want to talk to you about the February 28th, 2026 alignment of the planets. This alignment of planets that appear to be in a straight line is an unusual alignment, has not happened since more than 2,000 years ago. So we have been living in very interesting times with very strong planetary energies that may be impacting you. So I want to talk about February 28th. It's an important time. It's important to know about it and to know how to navigate your energies during this time. I'm going to share my screen, and what you'll be looking at is the mandala of synthesis, as I call it. It is a graphic that shows the components of a date that I will be talking about in terms of the graphic. So on February 28th, we go from a prenatal Sagittarian date to a Piscean date, the end of February, to a postnatal date 3 months after the February 28th, which takes us to Gemini. So when you think about those signs and the part of the wheel astrologically that is being impacted, it has to do with what your values are, how you present yourself to the public, the consciousness involved in it on a spiritual level, especially, the possible reactivity and openness you may have to new input, the way you want to express yourself, the resources you bring to it, and the communication you find through it. So, in my work, I use the four worlds. And the four worlds came about through my own exploration on over 50 years, as well as the scientific examination of more than 45,000 human design and noble energy map charts. In noble energy maps, I delineate four worlds: the mental waking world, the physical biological world, and note that those are the only two worlds that have a solar plexus. The emotional reactivity of the mental waking world and how it impacts us as a physical biological being. On a spiritual level, we have the chart for what happens when we sleep and dream, and I call it the spiritual archetypal because we are, as we're in REM sleep, getting symbols and meaning to our personal dreams that take us into a cosmic soup, so to speak. The emotional angelic world, labeled as it is, because the emotional angelic world is about taking emotional reactivity and mental world experiences, transforming them through compassion and love into higher consciousness and our genius for who we are. I also use the tree of life. When I was given the human design system from Ra Uru Hu, he explained that the voice told him that it was a synthesis of the tree of life, astrology, the I Ching, and the dimensions of consciousness. Those are shown in the four worlds in the tree of life, which actually is a map of self-actualization. So when I did the calculations based on the science, I got a four-world model. When we look at the planetary alignment for February 28th, 2026, we see that it was delineated in the human design system as a very strong single definition manifesting generator day. What is interesting about it as a manifesting day, if you only look at the human design, is that the solar plexus is activated. And it's activated so that if you are reactive on February 28th, you may be pushed to speak about your emotions and to act on them. However, if we look at the inner world of that day, you're picking up over the next 3 months the cosmic energy and spiritual energy of the collective. And that means that you're very sensitive to the energy of other people, especially when they are emotionally reactive, because you feel a responsibility. We all do, to transform emotional reactions into intuition and compassion and love. So as we look deeper at the charts of this planetary alignment, we see that taking action is not the wisest path on February 28th. What is a much wiser path is to ask yourself, what is this? What do I know about my emotional reactions? And how can I think about them, intuit about them, be with them in a different way? And what do I know about what I know right now? The 8 charts show us that over the next 3 months, from February 28th, which started on December 4th, so we're already feeling this energy, we're already experiencing the need to take some action with whatever's going on around us, and there is a lot. And I can tell you for myself that I began a new study on the beginning of December, and I'm completely steeped in the focus of learning new information in new ways. So that may be true for many of you, that you may be excited and you may not know where things are going to land. So let's look at the composite. The composite of a day, and I use 3 of them. The first one, which I call natal integrated vehicle, is what you were like, or what the day is like exactly on February 28th, and looking at the precursors that brought your unconscious into the energy of the day. So when we look at that day, the red is the unconscious, the prenatal, and the black is that day activating it. So on February 28th itself, it's about taking the energy in that's been feeding your unconscious starting in December and culminating on February 28th. And asking what you know about that energy and what do you want to have happen. The postnatal energy is very different. It's very strong and it's very dynamic. And it doesn't include some of the channels that the prenatal chart had. That's very interesting. It's very rare to see a chart on the postnatal date that has very little input from the previous energies. And when we look at the total composite, what we see is that a lot of the impetus for action can only come together when you put all of your experiences of the previous 3 months into an integrated whole. I teach the 4 worlds. The 4 worlds are very important because consciousness is not single dimension. So I will look at the astrology for you on February 28th so you can see that we have a major configuration of planets and we have some scattering Chiron in the eighth house tells us that our psychic abilities are going to be triggered in new ways. We also see that Uranus in the ninth house in Taurus is telling us that there's a grounding of our values that must happen for us to feel integrated in who we are and how we move forward. Note that the moon is in Leo, very strong. You may feel like you want to be in a group, be together with people, and that there needs to be a dialogue of new thoughts and possibly some leadership in how to think about them, how to integrate them without emotionality. I also did the chart for May 29th. There you see some intensity with the Scorpio moon. At Pluto in Aquarius is still pretty strong, and that we have different configurations moving around. So, one of the important components of what I do is to look at the keywords for the day. And I did a document for you, which will be available. All you need to do is direct message me or email me at ehp@noblesciences.com with the heading Patterns of Orientation Questions, and I will email this form to you so you can work with it. You still have time before February 28th to get it and to do some inner work. What I use instead of the faulty profiles that Ra used in the science, which you can look up in the Science of Human Design book, which is linked on my website, you can see that using a number, which is what Ra used to delineate the patterns, is a artifact of the math of the wheel. What I use instead is the actual description of the sun and the earth for each of the patterns in each of the 8 layers that we're looking at. So on the 28th of February, think about this. We go from a changing pattern of migration. What do you know about migration in your process? When reorienting for an effective future outcome, what needs to happen for you for that to happen? And what difference would it make for you to change? So those are what I call clean language, inner spiritual exploration language. And you can take each pattern and go through the questions that I created for each of the evolution of consciousness that will be going on between February 28th and May 29th. Now, in the spiritual realm, we see it's the foundation pattern of the 4 worlds. Now, look at the gates as well. The 3740 in the mental waking world is actually a channel that is in itself a factor, which means that it is very strongly activated in terms of trying to bring you into a consciousness of compassion and love rather than emotional reactivity. Be aware that you will be emotionally reactive and that you're being shown that on a spiritual level, you need to listen to your inner voice and you need to feel it intuitively. Is it right for you? Is it wrong for you in the moment? And you need to take it to your higher consciousness and ask, when 4 ways, what are the 4 ways? Also, a question which I didn't add on here. What do you keep returning to in your life, when triggered emotionally. So when emotionally triggered, what does that emotional reaction remind you of? And in what world? We know that you're going to be picking up energy, intuitive energy. Take it in and ask some questions. In the emotional angelic world, we have the foundation pattern of the alpha and its transition. When transition, what does the activation of transition come from inside of you or outside of you? The importance of this phrase, the foundation pattern of the alpha, and then looking at the gates involved in it, very important for you to think about in terms of what you know and what emotional triggers are triggering you. The fourth pattern is the pattern of the alpha. Still, same gates, similar questions, but framed a little bit differently because we're in the physical world. We keep going and we get to the four worlds again in the biological world. Then we get to the pattern of consciousness. So we're moving in a spiral constantly, going through the worlds, going through our consciousness, coming back to issues. So the pattern of consciousness requires introspection. When consciousness and introspection, what do you know now? The foundation pattern of alignment, you want to align your inner, your outer, you're taking care of other people and listening to them, and your own needs. What do you know about alignment? When aligned, what kind of alignment is your alignment? And then back to the mental waking world, which will be on May 29th, foundation pattern of planning. When planning, what works in your life? And using this sheet and these questions can bring you great insight because manifestation operates over a 3-month period. What you do today has consequences 3 months from now, a week from now, 2 days from now. And where you are today has been influenced over the last 3 months, last week, last 2 days. So be self-reflective, especially over this period of time. We had a lunar eclipse yesterday. I'm recording this on the 18th. So on the 17th, we had a lunar eclipse. Also, very strong emotional time with a lot of cosmic events going on. And we're moving into a time for self-reflection, for getting your emotions evened out and transformed into higher consciousness. If you have questions, do the 4-world assessment, free on my website, and you can schedule a short consult with me. Get the worksheets for the patterns of orientation, and feel free also to schedule a short appointment with me, and I'd be more than happy to look at your chart and go over it with you. If you want me to do that, I also need your birth data. So listen to this, watch it a few times, use the questions, and see you on the other side.